Session 3 deals with reimagining learning spaces. Reimagining learning spaces involves transcend. Our next speaker is Dr. Senthil Kumaran. May I request the AV team to please play the video?
Dr. A. Senthil Kumaran, Chief Confluencer and co-founder of the Learners Confluence, Chief Mentor and Director, Excel One. Dr. Kumaran is a former Principal Counselor and Head Education Excellence Initiatives at CII Institute of Quality. Led educational initiatives like CIIS Schools Excellence Clusters, International Learning Mission to Singapore and Finland. Dr. Kumaran delivered presentations on excellence in education in countries including Saudi Arabia, Oman, China, in the United States. He also hosted Teen Sawal, a popular Facebook live series empowering teachers with 43 plus episodes. Dr. Senthil Kumar stands as a beacon of transformative leadership in education. Dr. Senthil Kumar's journey is a testament to the enduring influence an individual can have on shaping the future of education.
Thank you. Over to Dr. Senthil Kumar, who will be presenting an interesting session on the A7 mantras for future schools. Over to you, sir.
Namaste to everybody. I said namaste. I have a little bad throat, but I can't shout out like him. But this is a teacher's voice, so I think the people in the last row also should be able to hear. Thank you, team CBSE, the Sahodaya, Mumbai Sahodaya for organizing this. I know that it's not very easy to get people together, and I always consider this annual event as a Kumbh Mela, and every principal here is trying to play their own akhada. Like I saw one row full of Punjab, जो हमें शक्कर का ज्ञान दे रहे थे, गुड़ का ज्ञान दे रहे थे. Thank you very much, because it's very difficult to kind of get people together, and उससे भी difficult तब होता है जब आपको जो बात मालूम है उसको दोबारा आपको बोला जाता है तो लगता है कि सिचुएशन क्या है. So I think I hope you understand what I am trying to talk about. I don't know when the call came from Mumbai Sahodaya saying कि we would like you to talk about reimagining learning space. तो मेरे को समझ में नहीं आया, ना तो मैं आर्किटेक्ट हूँ, ना तो मैंने कभी किसी स्कूल बनाया है, किसी को ज्ञान दिया है. Why they are asking me to do? But then I said let me do little कोशिश based on a practicing teacher. As a teacher, what I feel क्या हो सकता है, whether it comes from the affiliation norms, whether it comes from the school's utility perspective, what exactly I feel when I walk into classrooms. So first and the foremost thing, look at this particular picture. Any guess, where is this particular school? Any guess? Anyone? Bablewadi, which is few hundred kilometers from this particular place, and this is a Jilla Panchayat school in Maharashtra, 23 kilometers from Pune. When I walked into this particular campus for the first time, मेरे को लगा ये तो ना तो प्राइवेट है, सरकारी है, तो सरकारी में यदि एक प्रिंसिपल ने ऐसे कुछ काम किया है तो जरूर उस प्रिंसिपल ने कुछ तो सोचा होगा. इससे पहले मैंने कई स्लाइडों में कई थ्योरी देखे. I saw a lot of theories when it comes to education philosophy, what kind of learning systems we need, what kind of assessments we need. But I think when I asked this particular person, why did you put the glass around it, he never knew. He never knew. Because that time I started realizing that there is something called as regio, which talks about, like my earlier speaker said, environment as a third teacher. So how do you bring outside, inside the classroom is something which is very, very important. So this is one of our schools. So if we are trying to reimagine, we should not start from our own respective campuses. We should also start understanding कि हमारे देश में क्या हो रहा है and what exactly needs to be done. So thank you once again. A disclaimer which I put in all my sessions, that I have just pulled out pictures across the country, outside the country. During my travel experience, wherever I have gone, I keep picking up pictures, and I think those pictures help me when I come for such sessions, and it's quite interesting. Whenever I go to schools, Whenever I go to schools and whenever I talk about learning spaces, when I try to talk about labs, people, जब भी मैं किसी school में गया, first thing they show me, oh, this is our new lab, this is our new infrastructure. Somehow I always feel this is something like a white elephant. Very difficult to manage. Very difficult to manage, but we don't know how to utilize that on our routine. Nobody is allowed inside the lab. And I'm sure one of the NCRT director, he shared a very interesting example in one of the conferences of CII in my earlier avatar. He said a very interesting thing, कि जब पहली बार कंप्यूटर आया, सारे के सारे सीनियर ऑफिशियल्स कंप्यूटर सेंटर में थे, तो लोगों को लगा कि वाह कितना टेक्नोलॉजी पे हमें प्यार आ गया, लेकिन बाद में पता था कि वो एक ही एसी का कमरा था हमारे पूरे के पूरे कैंपस में, एंड ताकि सारे के सारे लोग वहां पे थे करके. सो वी रियली नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि हमारा जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, हमने जो बनाया, वॉट एवर वी हैव क्रिएटेड, इज इट एक्चुअली really getting used for the purpose what we are trying to look for. And whenever we are trying to talk about, we need to be very, very clear. Look at, this is a container school. This is another way to look at the same kind of a container school from a different level. And this is somewhere very close to this particular place where we are at Thane, Signal School. Now, if I go to all these three schools and I'm going to ask for CBSE, कि please जरा इसको affiliation दीजिए, तो affiliation नहीं मिलेगा. Because they don't go through all the NBC National Building Code 2015 will not be even followed out at there. So what exactly is supposed to be done? इतना ही नहीं, किसी ने कंटेनर से पूरा का पूरा स्टेडियम ही बना दिया. What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is learning spaces are purely decided based on the need. If my need is not very, very clear, I am just trying to create one more infra in my campus and to be shown to all the guests who come to my campus कि मेरे पास भी ये है. It is not about मेरे पास भी है. And I'm sorry to say that कि काफी स्कूलों में, कई स्कूलों में अच्छा हो रहा है, काफी स्कूलों में Atal Tinkering Lab was a fantastic concept. NEP talks about sharing of resources. 4 बजे के बाद कितने दरवाजे खुले हैं? Go back and check. कि आज हमारे स्कूलों में अटल टिंकरिंग लैब इज अ शेयर्ड रिसोर्सेस एज अ लर्निंग स्पेसेस. कितने स्कूलों ने उसे खोल के रखा हुआ है कि आसपास का कम्युनिटी आके बच्चा शाम को वहां पे काम करे, चाहे वो मेकर्स लैब के रूप में, और ही और शी कैन स्टार्ट यूजिंग टू एक्सपेरिमेंट समथिंग न्यू. एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट समथिंग वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट विच इज कॉल्ड एज रीइमेजिनिंग लर्निंग स्पेस. फैंटास्टिक डेफिनेशन. व्हेन वी ट्राई टू टॉक अबाउट रीइमेजिन, इट शुड फॉस्टर what it should foster: innovation, adaptability, inclusivity. And when we try to read all this in the SQUA document, I think many of us have filled in SQUA document. I know काफी लोगों ने जिनका affiliation pending है, they have already applied for SQUA document, and many of you might have already given yourself as 3 and 4. दिल खोल के सबने 3-4 दिया, but उसका जो पहला question है, that question says, do you have a pedagogical plan based on 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4? जब आपके पास pedagogical plan ही नहीं है, तो आपने 3-4 दिया कैसे? So go back and reflect and look at particularly that particular area which talks also about inclusivity. People were worried, oh अब lift लगाना पड़ेगा, ये करना पड़ेगा. अरे this was supposed to be done earlier also. This was supposed to be done earlier also. जब सर्कुलर आया, then we woke up maybe. अब स्क्वा में फिल करना है, maybe we may have to kind of create some minutes of meeting कि हाँ हम create करेंगे. Sorry. That is where we really need to understand that why are we trying to talk about, and the two important messages that today we are becoming interconnected. And we are not talking about only one thing, we are talking about all kinds of benchmark when it comes to learning. When it comes to learning, we are trying to compare ourselves. जब भी हमें कोई बोले कि India, look at number of CEOs what we have created. कहाँ से create किया? स्कूल का वातावरण क्या था? Probably we really need to reflect. Let me try to show something very very interesting on this particular learning space. What are some of my thoughts, or what are 7 mantras which I think which is very very important. We may have to rewind a bit, we may have to forward a bit, we may have to pause a bit while we are trying to look at our learning spaces. So what is that it basically tries to talk about? The first and the foremost is curriculum aligned space. Whatever we are trying to say कि ये हमारे curriculum में, do we have a supporting infrastructure to that particular curriculum? I'm not very sure about it. We create because we found it in a nearby school or a 5 kilometer ahead, or we went to another country, we took some pictures, came back and then said ki we need to create this. And let me show you some examples. This is just not a kitchen. This is not just a play area for early years in one of the schools in Bangalore. This is not a school. How this particular place is getting utilized is something very, very important. I can write the best thing in my lesson plan, but if the child is not going and utilizing this particular facility, it is a beautiful showcase in my campus. अच्छा लगता है ना देखने में भी. Not only this, we really need to understand the outdoor places are very beautifully created. पहले किसी ने बनाया, उसको किसी और ने replicate किया. इतना ही नहीं, today we are trying to talk about skill, suddenly competency. No, all these were existing. SUPW का एक पीरियड होता था, मैंने है नहीं कहा, होता था. And when it is है, तो I'm still happy. But उसकी definition, so some useful periods are being wasted or socially useful productive work, I don't know. I don't know what is actually being done. And that's where I think it is very, very important that today schools have suddenly started working on lot of interesting practices. If my curriculum talks about cooking, if I talks about how to do chopping, how to work on it is something very, very important. And this pictures, whatever I'm showing, it's a school in Kanyakumari. It's a school in Kanyakumari where it is integrated as part of the curriculum, and that's what is something very, very important. This particular management went to Finland, learned something very, very interesting called as home economics, brought this home economics concept, and then saw how exactly over a period of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, even before circular came, he started working on it, and this is a classic example of it. So you saw one of the learning spaces. The second kind of a learning space which is very, very important is personalized adaptive learning. The second important space which we need to kind of look at it, how it can be adaptive for my requirement. And I'll show you again a picture from Vablewadi. When I went to this particular school, I saw kids sitting and playing independently. हम बोल सकते हैं कि 3 Idiots तो एक film थी. We can say about it, but this is a real-time picture from Vablewadi school, जहाँ पे बच्चे independently बैठ के अपने अनुसार started. And this is not only with कह सकते हैं कि science, this was also seen in the music period. Children with a similar interest sat down together and started working with that. And this particular school has only 3.5 teachers, that is 3.5 teachers. One teacher comes on part-time and 3 teachers. So the student take ownership for managing all these places. So this is what is all about how exactly I can create personalized learning spaces. And today we can have best of furniture, best of things to basically work on it, but this is something which we really need to look for. The next important thing is outdoor. हर कोई outdoor के बारे में जानता है. Everybody talks about it, but how much it actually gets into the program is something very, very important. I don't know how many of you have read this interesting book called as Bala. Kabir Vajpayee has written fantastic book on how to make your place building as a learning aid. I don't have any interest in that business of it, okay? I'm just giving you as an example because it's very important for you to procure that book, go through it, and then make sure that instead of creating one more white elephant, how can I use my existing facility and make meaning out of it? Make meaning out of it. And this is not only for this. This is again in the northern part of the country in Rajasthan. This is in Chennai. This is again in Chennai, where we try to talk about कि हमें wiring कैसे घर की करानी है. We are talking about skill shortage, but our school is actually a CBSE school is actually doing this. Not only this, they have also introduced something very, very interesting in learning space. They have said that the major problem which comes in the toilets is the nozzle pipe, the commodes, and all those stuff. So the school teachers, as part of their learning, and this is a learning place, no reimagination required, already happening. Only thing, we have to understand how will I take back this learning, and is there a necessity for me to basically work on this. Another interesting is this technology infused learning hub. This is something which I went to one of the future classrooms in Korea in my recent visit, and I saw this very, very interesting facility there. And I love that particular classroom ambience. It's not only about technology, it is all about hands-on activity being done by the teacher, by the student. By the teacher and by the student, where they were trying to play with, the teacher is having the mobile and she is playing with the mobile there. Her content is already there. The children are working. She gives the time and she starts working on it. So we really need to understand how exactly are we going to work on it. Now I think many schools suddenly started, okay, we should have aquaphonics. We are trying to talk about it. Aquaphonics is not important in technology. My new learning was how much time this particular thing takes, how much time those plants take to grow. This is nothing but called as smart farming. This is where technology has to be used. Just using technology and then saying ki humne sab kuch kar liya, I'm sorry about it. It's only a technology tool that we used in distress. We used only a technology tool, whenever you use technology. If that was the case, then probably I think life would have been much more interesting. The day we started making Google Sheets, children knew how to press Control U and get the answers from it. You became little more smarter. The children also said, एक submit करेगा, सारे answer आ जाएंगे, एक में मैं fail हो जाता हूँ, एक में तुम fail हो जाओ करके. So children were equally smarter. So probably we really need to understand this particular perspective, what we are trying in terms of smart and technology getting infused. It's not only about technology, how do you engage community? How do you engage community? And this is going to be the new set of things which is happening. This is a new set of things which I should say CSR, corporates should start looking at it. Schools also should start construct such facility near the school gate so that it can be given to the community, which NEP basically expects you to do it. Again, the Panchayat president of Wablewadi is sitting with the children under a tree, and that is also a learning space. He is teaching the children, he is educated, he is teaching, no learning space required. Kele ka patta is learning space, or kele ka pauda. Itna hi nahi, probably this is something which I recently picked up from South Korea. People are already preparing for e-sports in the next Olympics. अभी तक हमारे पास ये प्रॉब्लम है कि टेक्नोलॉजी हम लेसन प्लान में यूज करें, असेसमेंट में यूज करें, करेगा तो ये कंट्रोल सी कंट्रोल भी करके पिछले साल का लेसन प्लान दे देगा, क्वेश्चन पेपर. सो वी आर स्टिल ट्राइंग टू फाइट आउट विद द रूटीन्स, बट देयर आर पीपल हु हैव क्रिएटेड स्पेसिफिक zones, community centers where all this can be created. This is not only this. This is all about IoT space, and I'm going to show you something very, very interesting. Look at the floors. Look at the 5 floors, and this is a community center which has got created in Seoul, which I had the opportunity to see last month. And if you try to look at every floor, look at the labs which is being done. You have a creator studio, you have a career lab, you have a cafe, you have auditorium, you have a parking, multiplex, makers lab, robot lab, IoTs, and all these are shared facility. If I go back and read NEP document on shared facility, this is what exactly it expects us to do. How much common facility I can create, आप कितना create करेंगे, मैं कितना create करूँगा. And I think that is what is something which is very, very important, which we need to look at it. This is not only happening in this part of the world, and this is catering to this environment. Now look at the number of houses, and all across similar kind of construction is there, and this community center is inside. So what does it talk about it? The learning spaces what we are trying to create. And the most interesting thing which I saw in this particular place, a 10-year-old to a 62-year-old sitting and using the same facility interestingly to understand what is AI. We talk about drone, and I saw a complete drone related activity happening in that particular place. So what I'm trying to say is that whenever we are trying to talk about a learning space, we need to understand the need, and the need is very, very clear. We will be able to understand. This is not only about this. I think many of us have read a lot of articles about Finland Future School. And this is the school which I had the opportunity to visit. I said, ki, kya hai future mein, jara hum bhi jaake dekhe, samjhe. And when we went to this particular place, again, I'm not getting into detail of the school and the theory and the practices. I'm only trying to say the learning spaces. And in the learning spaces, what was very, very interesting is There is a upper primary school, there is a daycare, there is a lower primary school, there is a common auditorium, there is a sports, and there is a lobby and assembly area. Look at the facilities which has been very, very clearly been defined and put across very, very clearly. So there is a cafe where the parent can come and wait. There is a facility where I can actually come and engage. And when I have a common facility, and this is just a layout just to give you, when you are thinking about a space, learning spaces, look at such models too. Not only this is again a very interesting school in Bangalore. Complete cardboard में बना हुआ school है. The whole school is done on cardboard. हमको ये लगेगा पोछा मारते समय कैसे चलेगा. Our thinking is that, and this is nothing but an old factory building which has got converted into a preschool. Many people will give all the gyan around it, but look at the facility. They have a sleeping zone, they have a green, they have common facility. Everything is available in this particular facility, and that's something very, very interesting. Schools have also started. One of the most abused things, unfortunately, now when we go to schools is SDG. जहाँ भी देखो SDG, SDG, SDG. Lesson plan में एक row और column add करके SDG. I think it doesn't happen like that. SDG has to be ingrained into your practices, and if it is not getting ingrained, you are not going. Yeah, don't do it. I'll finish. Don't do it. Is that farm? Farming, again, we try to talk about, are we really trying to create something like this? We don't have require. Yeah, give me the hand. Again, we have been talking, only submitting a project for 1 or 2 awards. We may try to create कि हमने ये कर दिया, ये कर दिया. It is not about that. Sustainability of a practice is something which is very, very important. There is a school in Raipur. Which uses all their paper, waste paper. They recycle the paper, and all the जितने भी आज गिफ्ट दिए गए थे गेस्ट को, वो सारे के सारे गिफ्ट पेपर स्कूल के बच्चे ही बना के प्रिंट करके देते हैं. Handmade paper is getting used in that particular school. So there is a CBSE school in your own board which is available at Raipur and doing a great job. So what I am trying to talk about is that whenever we try to talk about sustainability learning spaces, we really need to give some effort, otherwise we are not going anywhere. With all this, one more very interesting thing. आजकल मॉल का बड़ा कल्चर है, तो I thought मैं भी जरा मॉल का कुछ एग्जांपल दूं. There is something which is called as vertical campuses, which is a new concept which is coming up into the education space, which is very, very important, and we are expected to look at this kind of a space to make sure that we have all the facility available. But I am not very sure whether we will get the affiliation for this or not. Okay, that is my problem. Okay, otherwise this maybe sir, मैं बोल रहा हूँ, I think you can consider, but this is something which we really need to do. But I'm quite happy. पहले 2 एकड़ से 1 हुआ, 1 से 0.5 हुआ, and today we are with 0.5. There are places where we are actually working on it, and that's fantastic. Not only this, this is again something very, very interesting. You can come and sit in a library. You can come and sit. You want to be a solo reader, you can look at the beautiful view outside Helsinki, and you can actually look at it. Look at and read whatever book you want to book. Not only this, you can go back and create your own printing. You can do a 3D printing by paying certain things. You can go to that particular facility and try to see that how it can be self-sustainable. It's all about sales. Not only this, look at the complete book layout, what is there. Not only this, look at how people are playing chess in that same place. All this is done in one particular facility, which is very, very specifically looking at this. There is a children play area, and all this is happening in this particular mall, which is called as OD Library in Helsinki. Now we don't have to go back and start looking at कि ओ नया क्या करना है कैसे. No, how exactly every square feet of your facility is actually getting used, I think that's very, very important. We do all sorts of audits in our campus. How many times we have done utilization audit of our labs? Utilization audit. I'm asking a very, very important point कि हम infra बना लेते हैं, लेकिन are we actually trying to use that particular facility for the purpose with which we presented as a project proposal? I think that's something important. So learning mall is one more question. It is not only for students. Can you guess what is this? This is a facility आप लोगों के लिए, teachers के लिए, done in one of the schools in Chennai. And very interesting thing is that ये सारा का सारा faculty and staff only. कितना अच्छा होता ना, हमारे स्कूल में भी एक ऐसी जगह होती, कम से कम substitution period से वहां जाके तो बैठ जाते थोड़ा बहुत. Because all of us, particularly after COVID, we really have lot of challenges, and I am sure most of the principals sitting here, you might have suddenly seen a new culture in your campus, something called as carrying water bottle to the classroom. जो कोविड से पहले नहीं होता था, अब हो रहा है हमारे स्कूलों में. सडनली वाटर बॉटल का बिजनेस अच्छा हो गया स्कूल्स के कारण, पता नहीं, लेकिन जो 40 मिनट व्हाट वी यूज्ड टू स्पेंड अर्लियर टू बेसिकली रीड और टेक क्लास, टुडे वी आर नॉट एबल टू डू. By fourth period, fifth period, they are exhausted, and only thing which is happening for many principals is, जैसे ही आप थोड़ा pressure डालो, ma'am, my father-in-law is not keeping well, take the resignation. That's all. Immediately I give resignation, I walk out of that particular place, and that's all is happening. So to get somebody as a faculty at that time, it's still very difficult. So I can understand and empathize what exactly you're. So that's some facility for the teachers too in the campus. But we have to go back to basics. कभी-कभी हम बड़े-बड़े jargons, reimagining के चक्कर में basics को छोड़ देते हैं. And what is that particular basic? First and the foremost thing, if you're going to revisit, if you're going to, after the session, if you're going to go back and revisit, first try to find out whether it is aligned to your school curriculum or not. Give me 2 minutes. Adhere to the regulatory and statutory. I might have said a comment here, but please follow all the norms given by CBSE, local state government or authorities in your areas. It is very important. You may lose out your affiliation too. You may lose out your recognition too. So please follow while adhering to those. Third, we heard a lot of people talking about early years. I think NEP is first time probably not talking about grades, talking about developmental stage. We really need to look at developmental stage. Age से कुछ नहीं होता. Developmental stage growth बच्चे की उस उम्र में क्या होती है? That is what is important. Not only this, it should be adequate. That's where I think when circular came, maximum number of children in a classroom, I think lot of us had lot of discomfort. When the numbers restriction came in, I think many schools had the problem कि हमारे पास classroom नहीं है, क्या करें करके. So probably, I think we need to look at adequate and accessible. When I'm talking about accessible, I'm talking about being inclusive. And I'm quite thrilled for the first time under the SQA, inclusive is given as a criteria. Fantastic. It's a great move. At least people will answer that. To answer that question, still now it is not compulsory to get your affiliation. It's still a voluntary. But if it becomes compulsory, I'll be the first person to be happy. At least now people have started consciously looking at that particular parameter. Functionality and aesthetic, you can't be putting something which is wrong. And the second last important thing is that safety and hygiene. Many a time as a school, we think that we are supposed to only provide gyan. Sorry. We did a survey in Tamil Nadu, particularly in Madras, when we were, Chennai to be very precise. When we did this particular survey with lot of parents, they said only one thing, हमको academics नहीं चाहिए, hygiene, safety चाहिए. We want hygiene and safety. People wanted to come and see children toilet before they wanted to put their kids into that particular school. So what does that talk about it? I think we really need to kind of go back and work on it. And final, which is very important, is measure the utilization effectiveness. इस साल हमने यूज कर लिया, अगले साल किया क्या पता नहीं, but I think it's very important. आप लोगों को देखा होगा सेंथिल ने इतना अच्छा डेफिनेशन कहाँ से उठाया, ये मैंने नहीं उठाया. I think I should thank ChatGPT. वो ChatGPT मेरी डेफिनेशन नहीं है, वो ChatGPT की डेफिनेशन है. खाली मैंने थोड़ा उसको रिफाइन करके आपको प्रेजेंट किया. That's all. Why I wanted to tell it, कि even to make a small presentation, today all of us are dependent on it. आजकल स्पीचेस में पता चल जाता है कि कौन से वर्ड रिपीटेटिवली ChatGPT बोलता है यदि आप प्रोफेशनल ChatGPT यूजर हैं तो. So we really need to work. But moral of the story is very clear. Control C, Control V doesn't work. Please understand this particular point. Control C, Control V doesn't work. You really need to understand this particular point. You really need to understand this particular point कि आपके स्कूल की नीड क्या है? What is the total classroom size that you have? What is the profile of people who are coming into your campus? What is the curriculum that you are going to set for yourself? All that plays a very important role. Then only we can actually talk about सो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाने से पहले, लर्निंग स्पेस बनाने से पहले, होप पिछले 20 मिनट्स में आई शुड हैव स्टार्टेड doing this with all of you. With that note, namaste and thank you very much for the opportunity to the Sahodaya team for getting me here, and I'm available here if anybody wants to fight. We'll have the chat in the evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Senthil Kumar. May I request Mr. Prem Pradhan from Quick Campus to please felicitate Dr. Senthil.